Something's being recorded. That's wonderful. But we'll get to that in a minute. I'll let Jennifer talk a little bit about our family.
Okay, so these are our 3 kids. We were just talking this morning with Diane, just realizing how long it's been since we've been, can you hear me, here? 21 years. That's been a long time ago. And so now we have Libby. She'll be 14 in August. And then Judah, he's the one in the middle. He'll be 12 in a few weeks. And then our son Jace is 10. And so, yeah, like Joey was saying, 5 years ago we moved. He had never left Bowie. And I've been in Bowie since, I think in 91 or 92. So that was home for me. And we had not left until we moved to Missouri. And so that was a big transition for us. You'll have to forgive me too, because I'm like Mary, have a little allergy drainage. So first major transition for us. I think we've realized in that 5 years, we don't transition well. It was really hard to leave home, I will tell you. We grieved a lot. We cried probably our first year every day. As you can see on the left, our kids were 5, 7, and 8 when we moved. And so 5 years has flown. But in that time, we've just grown closer together to the Lord. You know, when you don't have anybody, and we didn't have anybody. We moved from here knowing people, our home, to having basically been immersed into 4 different cultures. Missouri is the Midwest, it's not the South. And then you've got our church home up there. That's a whole new culture. And then just a new town, new people, new church. We live on campus, and that picture right there will show you our house. It's a duplex, actually. So we live on the left-hand side. And so campus has its own culture. And so here we are immersed in 4 different cultures by ourselves. And so needless to say, it was a hard transition that first year, and it's gotten easier, and God's been faithful to be with us. And man, we've grown a lot together. We've grown just as a family, and the Lord's just proven faithful during that time.
So the mission organization that God led us to is Ethnos 360. And it was formerly known as New Tribes Mission. A few years back, they decided to change the name to Ethnos 360 because of all of the legalities and things that go along with mission or tribal. The word tribal, some folks didn't like that in other countries. They didn't want to be called tribal area and stuff like that. So they chose to change the name to Ethnos 360. Ethnos basically means people groups, and 360, of course, means the world around. So people groups all over the world, and that kind of makes sense. But the organization that we work with works with the local church, evangelizes the unreached people groups. That's the plan, is to evangelize unreached people groups. And so we translate the scripture into the heart language of each people group. Okay. And then we establish mature churches. That's the plan, is a mature church when we walk away and we step away. And again, this process is very lengthy. It is not a quick process. There are exactly, let's just say exactly, total personnel for Ethnos 360 is there at the top on the statistics says 2,327 missionaries. So that's a lot of missionaries spread all over the world, and not every single one of them is a church planter. There's support missions, and there's a support group and a backbone, if you will, of missionaries that help support and help do all of the work that needs to get done. This last year was kind of a very, very difficult year for a lot of people, of course, with COVID and all of the things that brought forward. And of course, for missionaries, it was very, very difficult. Many of our missionaries had to leave their areas, they had to leave their mission field and come back to the States or go at least get out of the jungle areas in which they were working, because it just wasn't really a safe place. Again, you have to understand the culture in a lot of these places. A lot of people believe, well, the white man brought in that fever or that sickness or that disease, whatever. And so again, sometimes if our groups are in those areas, we kind of get the blame, and that's not a good, healthy situation. And so we choose to back out a little bit and play it safe. And so during that last year, we really suffered. And as far as the gospel being proclaimed all over the world, it was, but it was just in smaller amounts and smaller groups. And of course, because of COVID and all of that. So the gospel last year was presented for the first time in 3 unreached people groups. Okay, so 3 unreached people groups is where we've got to share and share the gospel for the very first time. And we do have believers in those unreached people groups. Even now, we have churches being started. And so it's a wonderful thing. It's exciting. And we get to be a part of that. And we'll kind of tell you a little bit about what we do. And we'll do that now.
Okay, so our role, we are not serving overseas. We are actually serving stateside in a support role. And where we serve it's now called Ethnos 360 Training, but it used to be called the Missionary Training Center. Again, they're trying to get away from some of those labels because some of our missionaries go to closed access countries where it's illegal. And so if they know that they've just come away from a missionary training center, it just alerts people that, oh, okay, well,
It's religious.
Yes, so you're a missionary and we don't really want you here. So they changed the name to Ethnos 360 Training. And so that's in Missouri, central Missouri, and that is where we are currently serving. And so this training, you can see the top slide is that's the entrance into our campus. It's a 350-acre campus where I would say the majority of the staff and students live there together. The bottom picture shows you kind of some older housing. That's where a lot of our single students or married students live. And part of this training, it is a 2-year training. So when they finish Bible school or some kind of seminary, then they come here and this is their last leg of training before they head to the field. And there is a 4-course emphasis. So part of their training is they're going to be taught how to be a church planner. How do you plan a new church? Christian living, man, we talk about just worldview. How do you get along with coworkers? How do you be a peacemaker? Obviously, moving overseas with families that you're in the bush with, there's going to be some conflict. So how do you resolve conflict? They do teach you how to adapt to a new culture. How do you go about learning a language that's never been written down? Some of these languages are just spoken only. They don't know how to read and write their own language. So they teach you how do you learn a new language that's never been written. And then the complementary courses are things like there is a course that Joey will talk to you about in a minute. It's called Simple Living. It's not really simple, but you're out in the woods for 3 weeks and you're living off grid, plastic houses, cooking on an open fire. They're teaching you very practical skills such as fire building, knot tying, chainsaw safety, very practical things because when they get overseas, that's just their reality. There's not a Walmart up the road. We teach them how to cook from scratch. That's one thing I'll tell you about here in a minute, but very practical training. And so once they leave our training, then they're ready to leave and go raise their own support. And so, so here's where we're serving. This is where we live. We live on campus, and this is where we've been for the last 5 years.
So, guys, our roles as missionaries, again, being support missionaries, looks a little different than the church planter expectation that a lot of people have when they say, "Oh, well, you're part of that Ethnos 360 organization. They do church planting." Yes, we do church planting, and that is the goal, a mature church. But we do have support roles, and the reason is because there is a need for that, right? You can't send somebody out into an unreached people group with no support. And so it's really important that we do that. And so my main role as a missionary with Ethnos 360 is IT. So information technology, which tends to end up being anything with a power button, which is not all IT, just for your information. But that's what, Joey ends up touching everything with a power button. Jennifer is an education consultant and an instructor, and so I'll let her tell a little bit more about that in a minute. But that is a very, very needed thing that the students coming through, the missionaries coming through, get help from Jennifer. And Libby, her role, it tends to be things like babysitting and baking for others and things like that. She also likes to sing, and she'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. So the next slide is just a verse. It says, "Now there are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit, and there are varieties of service, but the same Lord, and there are varieties of activities, but in the same God who empowers them all in every one." And everybody has giftings. Everyone has talents. My giftings don't look like your giftings, and your giftings don't look like my giftings. Okay, and so that's why there are some that send, and there are some that go, and there are some that support. And so again, there's all of those different functions. And so 1 Corinthians 12 tells us about the gifts and how we are to use those gifts, however God has given those to us. So, all right. So a little bit about my particular ministry there on campus. And I said my main role is IT. And of course that is a really important thing that we do there while we're on campus. And of course, that bottom picture shows a couple of servers with green lights on them. Green light means good. And so, hey, we're all good. They're running, everything's happy. If they're orange lights or red lights or no lights, that is a problem, and we want to take a look at that. But just thought I would throw that picture in there. It's kind of funny. We are given a work detail crew. So from the student missionaries that are coming through, our IT group, our IT department is given a work detail group. And so you see that group of guys over there standing with me. That's my work detail crew. And basically what we're doing is we're kind of mentoring them and training them. And then of course they're helping us along the way. So, we need some things done that just maybe one or two of us can't do. And we need a larger crew to help us or get something accomplished. These guys come in, and as they're going through the training, they're there for a couple of years, and we get to mentor them and work with them. And it's wonderful relationship building, actually, it really is. And so that's my group. The one there on the left is Ethan. He's got his hat turned around backwards. That's Ethan, and he's actually going to join our IT department. He just has graduated from the training, and he felt like he and his wife felt like that they would plant right there with us. And so that's wonderful. That gives us somebody else in our department. So just heads up on that. There on the right-hand side, Jennifer was telling you a little bit about simple living. And simple living is really important because a lot of our missionaries coming through don't live in an area that they've ever done any real camping, or they've done any long-term camping. Let's say, they take a tent out, they, bring some canned food, some hot dogs, and, it's a small situation, right? But we're talking about moving your family, the whole family, into an area in which there is no grocery stores and things like that. And so simple living ends up being a situation where we give them a couple of weeks out in the wilderness alone, but with a team of folks. So they're working together, they're sharing food together, they're learning how to deal with issues and problems that may arise or come up, and it is very stressful. Let's just be honest. And again, we're trying to kind of push them a little bit so that they understand what they need to work on in their personal growth plan. Okay, because again, let's just be honest. We all have issues. We all have sin in our lives, and we all mess up and make mistakes, and get mad at the next person that's being a little bit too loud that night or whatever. The point being is it is difficult. And so during that simple living, one of the things that we get to help out sometimes with is cleanup, or we get to help out with supply buying and delivery. So supply buying, again, there's not a grocery store that these folks can buy their supplies at and then just return back to their house and do their thing. Basically, we have pallets that bring in supplies to these very indigenous people group areas and these tribal areas. And so we'll have planes that'll come in and deliver goods, or we'll have helicopters. A lot of our aircraft are moving into the helicopters because they're a lot easier to bring it in, drop it, and take off and get out of there. And like you can land a lot easier, and especially in these areas, you don't have to have a runway. So again, that's kind of an interesting thing, but a lot more money. So anyway, the point being, this is what we were doing here in this upper right-hand corner. We were helping with some ballooning with the move out. We were kind of helping with the clean out. Guys, they backpack things in, they stay there for 2 weeks, and then they've got to kind of get it all back out. And, it gets messy, right? You live there for a couple of weeks and it gets messy. And so we were helping with the cleanup that day. But we also help with the supply run. We'll go buy stuff at Walmart for them. Basically, they'll put in their supply order, and we will go and purchase it for them and then deliver it to them in this remote area. So it's kind of cool. One thing that we have found out, being from Texas, is we love food, okay? And like good food, like Southern food, like good stuff. And so that middle picture down at the bottom, everybody kind of laughs at that picture, but that's a smoked hog that I smoked, was for some staff friends. We got together, we were trying to just encourage one another. And so, hey, I've never done that before. Let's smoke a whole hog, right? And so we like food. And again, you'll hear a lot of that from us, that a lot of our ministry is sharing our food, sharing time together around food. And the middle picture there at the top is a laptop that I rolled out. I created a way to roll out laptops that I didn't have to touch every single one this last year. And so we rolled out about 20 or so laptops in a couple of hours versus having to touch every one of them and install a piece of software and then install another piece of software. And, it takes hours to do just one. We can do that real quickly. So I worked on that this last year. All right.
So this kind of gives you an idea of what my ministry looks like. I'm an education consultant. Don't be too impressed with that because it's not that impressive. I just went through a training honestly to be, just for my own personal benefit, to be able to help the students with educational needs. And that's really all that entails is what does schooling look like overseas? Because you do have options. Homeschooling is a big one. And to be honest, everybody overseas last year ended up having to do that because all your international and your mission schools had to shut down. And so it was really for my own personal benefit, just to be able to help others. And then I was asked to join that department. So the Educational Resource Center is our yellow building up there at the top. And that's where we house out of. And the bottom two pictures shows kind of the inside of that building, shelves with curriculum and such. And it just allows the students to come into the building, pull off what they think they may want to use, lay it out and look at it, and just figure out, what works best for our family. And so I was able to lead a workshop I guess it was February of this year. So that shows me at the bottom, basically doing a homeschooling 101. What does this look like? How would it look like overseas? How do I homeschool multiple age children? You basically have got students who have no idea what that even looks like. And it can be very overwhelming to be thrust into something that you have no clue how to do. And so I was able to do that as well. In the middle, you can't see it very well, but that's me standing in front of a whiteboard doing a homemade bread demonstration. So part of that Simple Living Week is every meal that they have for a week, they have to eat from scratch and cook it from scratch. So nothing boxed, prepared, and it's just practical training. How do you survive in an overseas people group without access to grocery stores? So we were doing a homemade bread demonstration. So we teach them how to do some of those things, how to can, how to cook a whole chicken. And that seems kind of a no-brainer for some of us, but to be honest, some of these students were asking how to cook rice on a stove. They didn't know how to do it. Maybe they didn't grow up the way I did, where my mom cooked, and so practical skills. And so that was fun getting to do that. And then at the very bottom, you can see that's the picture of our dining room with us sitting there. And so we were doing a Valentine's Day dinner for some of our single students because You all know that Valentine's Day is not very fun if you're single. And so we got a chance to reach out and minister to our single girls. And so like a lot of what Joey was saying, we may have main roles, but a lot of our roles just look different, and food is a big one for us. We feed a lot of people. You know, we realized when we first moved there how hard that transition was. And when you don't have anybody and you're grieving and you're sad and you've experienced loss, part of our role that we've just taken on is just loving people, welcoming people. So we feed a lot of people because you know what, food is comforting. And so so that's a big part of even our budget is food, just because we enjoy having people and cooking Southern food. And so so that just kind of encompasses a lot of what my ministry is. And now Libby's going to share a little bit of what hers looks like.
This is me. So yeah, my role, I guess, in our family ministry is babysitting and baking mostly. And then there are some kids that I babysit and they're so cute. And so basically they're a bunch of them are just in their early to mid 20s, and so they have a lot of kids, and they also have a lot of homework when they're learning. And so babysitting is a big need on campus, so that's the way that I can help. And then in the top corner, that's one of the students. Her name is Becca, and I got to befriend her. And so we were having coffee, and basically just it's really cool because, I mean, even though there's a large age gap between me and a lot of the students that come on the campus, it's really cool because a lot of the time the Lord can use you to empower their lives and, be able to share your story. And for me, I remember 5 years ago, living in Bowie and not knowing anything outside of Bowie except for Decatur. I mean, that's what I knew. Bellevue. And so then you pick me up and just say, hey, we're moving to Missouri. I mean, it's a huge change. And so I remember I cried every day because I left my church and my friends and the restaurants that I knew and the streets. And I mean, everything was familiar here. So being able to, I guess, be there with them and say, hey, I understand, because I lived that out 5 years ago and it is really, really hard. And so, yeah. And then I bake a lot. I like baking, and it's, something fun that I can do. And so, for me, every August you get a new group of students, and it's about 50 to 80 people, I guess. Maybe more sometimes.
50 to 80.
Yeah.
Yeah, 50.
A lot. And you're meeting them, and so you have a lot of names to memorize and a lot of new people, and a lot of them are hurting because they just moved from somewhere to probably a Bible school, or I don't know, it could be really anywhere. And so I like to, I guess, be a, hope, I guess, but yeah. I like to, be an encouragement. And so part of what that looks like for me is I like to bake. And so that's a picture of cookies. And I guess a bunch of the time I'll randomly just be like, Mom, can I make cookies? Can I make something? And she'll be like, sure, who you want to give it to? I'm like, I have no clue, but the Lord will tell me in the car when I'm about to drive up to their house. And so that's really what I do. And a lot of the time I'll pray and be like, Lord, you know who I need to give these to this week and who this will encourage. So that's, I guess, what baking entails for me. And then every Friday they have chapel, and so that's when all of the students get together and worship, and they usually have a speaker, and sometimes it's from one of the different countries, or I guess somewhere. And so I was there, and you can see me. I was helping lead worship. So that's just kind of what I overall do, and I love it because I can be a part even at my young age. And so, anyways.
Okay, so we do this and we do minister in this way. We do consider ourselves to be support missionaries and stateside support missionaries. And we're always looking for partners. We're looking for people that are willing to come alongside us, help us financially, or pray for us. The picture here shows on the right hand side our current support level, and our current support level is a little bit more than the 68% that it tells you up there. We have, since we've been here, grown to 77%. For our current support level, which is phenomenal, because when we left just a month or so ago, 2 months ago, we were at 50%. So the Lord has really blessed us financially in that way. But basically, we don't take a paycheck from the organization. We're not paid in any way or form. We live on the donations of individuals and churches. And so that's kind of a representation of our support level and where we're at. And if anybody would like to come alongside and help us, partner with us, that's a wonderful thing. We would love you to do that. You can get with us after the service and ask us a little bit how you can do that. That's great. We'd be more than happy to share that with you. But also, one way that we ask people to partner with us is to pray for us, pray for our family. And these are a few specific things that we really just want people to pray specifically for us. Parenting can be a difficult situation, even if you're not moving around or moving or traveling all the time or whatever. Parenting is a difficult thing. And at our spot, Libby's 13 now, just about 14. Judah's 12 and Jace is 10. And so they're stair-stepped, but we're trying to figure this out alongside of doing ministry and being busy and all of that, as well as many of you have done the same thing. But we do covet your prayers in that way. We also covet your prayers with our financial situation. Guys, we really need to be closer to that fully funded 100%. The reason is because, like Jennifer said, a lot of our budget is food. A lot of our budget is getting spent on those things, medical issues. Something that we didn't really share this time. I'm a diabetic. Libby's also a diabetic. And then Judah has a chronic ear thing that he has to deal with periodically, having to go to doctors and specialists and things. And so our medical bills tend to be pretty expensive as well, even with insurance. And so again, just all of the things that you do on a regular basis, groceries and such, that's what that support does for us. And so we would ask that you would pray for us in that way as well. And then depends on God for the future. Guys, when you say, yes, Lord, and you kind of think God has got it figured out and you've got it figured out, like what you're really going to be doing, God changes that about as soon as you get comfortable. So we feel like 5 years we're feeling pretty comfortable. And so we're like, okay, what's he going to do now? Right? Let's just be honest. So we just ask that you guys would pray for us, that we would have dependence on God for the future.
All right, and as we close, this is a picture of our campus. We're right on the Lake of the Ozarks. And so, we just thank you for having us. Anytime any of you want to come and see us, please do. We have people coming through all the time. People bring youth groups, work teams. It takes a lot of hands to keep up a campus that large. And so we welcome people. We would love to have anybody come and see us. We also put some prayer cards out there on that table, just some updated ways of how you can contact us. We love notes, we love emails, and so those are out there on the back table. And, we're just grateful to be back here, and just thank you for allowing us to share with you.
Thank you guys so very much. We do appreciate it. And thank you. 21 years ago, we served right here in this church. So again, 21 years. Can y'all believe that? I mean, some of y'all have been here that long and you're all shaking your heads going, what? Thank you guys again for letting us share. We do appreciate it.